So you think you know the face of homelessness? I bet you never thought it looked like this.
Hello. My name is Nicole, and I'm going to tell you the story about how I became what we're now calling transitional homeless. So, I'm living here in Georgia, my daughter and we had this apartment in Riverdale. And there were some issues with the apartment. And we had to move. Like, we didn't have to move because of not paying rent or anything like that, but some other issues, and we had to move. So we had this idea, some other schoolmates of ours wanted to get like a big house because all of us are doing film and audio and stuff like that. And we found some big houses that we looked at. We were all going to share the house. So fast forward a little bit, we, all thinking we're about to do this up until the Monday prior. We're all ready to do this. We've given our apartment the notice. And like I said, the Monday prior, we found out that the other people were backing out. So we couldn't go back on trying to stay at the apartment or anything. So my daughter and I went to an extended stay. An extended stay basically is a hotel room that has like a stove and an apartment size refrigerator in it. Maybe a chair or a couch or something like that. The thing is, an extended stay is $371 a week in the south side of Georgia. So that was about around the cheapest one that we could find. I know that when people think about people being homeless, they're always thinking that the people that we see outside may be panhandling or which you may think to be annoying or something like that, which is sometimes, most of the time, mental illness, and we overlook that. And I hope that we can stop doing that as a people. But transitional homelessness it hurts. And although I'm renting a room, my daughter and I are renting a room, there was a few weeks ago where we had to fly back to Philadelphia because I literally just didn't have the money for that week of the extended stay. And I had people make mention of, well, if you can get a plane ticket, then you should be able to pay the thing. Well, I have a daughter who works for the airline, so no. She has a thing that even if I don't have the money, they can just take the money out of her check. So she just said, Mom, come home. So I was just basically waiting to get paid again. And then we found something called, I think it's Roomies or roommate.com. And we did basically a profile on there, and then people will hit you up either to maybe share a house or rent out their room or whatever. And that's what we're doing now. And although it's a very nice home, it's very nice, it's still not our home. And never in a million years did I think that at this point in my life that I would be going through this. I've raised 5 grown children. I have 5 grandchildren. I work, I go to school. My daughter has 2 jobs. It was just really unfortunate, and it's hard. And I know that I have to be grateful because it could be so much worse. It could be so much worse, and I am grateful. But it doesn't take away the fact that I don't have my own space to move around in. And don't get me wrong, because the place that we stay in, she says it's fine for us to have free reign of the whole house because all 3 of us are basically hardly ever there. But when you're in somebody else's space, you want to be mindful of their space. So when I am there, outside of us cooking, we pretty much just stay in the room. And it's just hard.
All right, so this documentary is about homelessness, and I remember that we talked, and you were saying that you were kind of that mobile homelessness. So tell me about that.
Kind of what that looked like. I was homeless, but I had a home, if that makes sense. I currently, live with my mother and my grandmother, and until I get to where I need to be on my own. But we were renting from a landlord. He decided, a couple of months out that he wanted to sell the home. And so with selling the home, we were looking for other rental properties. We wasn't in a predicament to buy. So with that being said, looking for homes, it was getting closer and closer down to the wire, trying to make things happen. But a lot of people within the rental, industry with real estate, they're in it for the money. We were paying out all these deposits for rental applications, and we were getting denied, whether it's for our credit, other reasons. But then come to find out that the landlord had put a roadblock within our progression to move on, because he initially wanted us to buy the home from him, but we didn't want to live out that far. And so we found out, by the grace of God, it was one landlord that we were working with, and she told us, she said, well, he's saying, we were late maybe once or twice, but he put that monkey wrench in our transition. And so as it got down to the time, we end up having to move in with my sister. She was living in Kennesaw at the time, and it was me, my mom, and my sister and her friend that was staying in the apartment. It was a 2-bedroom home. And we said, a couple of months, but a couple of months turned into almost half of a year. What the commute looked like for me at the time, I was in the school industry and with Schoolfield, and living in Kennesaw, working in Covington, Georgia, I would have to get up at 4:00 to be on the road by 5 to get to Covington by 8:15. Homelessness has a different look. It's not the same as, stand up under a bridge or, sleeping on a corner. It looks different.
I left Detroit, Michigan for the very first time in my life. I was 25 years old, so this was in 1995. I left because I wanted to go and work with a production company I was working with, and we were moving to New York so we could be stars. Okay? We were chasing our theatrical dreams and carrying on, and the curator and the artistic director of the company, he had left a couple of months prior. He was like, okay, I'm gonna go get things set up and this, that, and other, and then you guys come on out and we're gonna get this. We were supposed to be getting a house, and all of us was gonna live in this house, and kind of like do what Big Brother was before Big Brothers and all that stuff got started and all of that. I got rid of my 1-bedroom apartment, sold everything, and which was nothing. So I left Detroit with a one-way train ticket. I had 2 bags. One was clothes, one was music, $300 cash, and $65 in food stamps. And I was on my way to New York. However, the day before getting on the train, I got a call that says nothing was in order. So I said, oh, okay. But I had nowhere to go at home. I had just sold everything. So I said, all right, I'm coming. So we get to New York. Quickly, everything was different. And I stayed there, and for the first 5 days of my New York existence, I lived in the American Youth Hostel. This particular place is dormitory style living, for travelers. And it was $23 a night. You had a 2-week maximum stay, and because it was dormitory style, you bunked with other people that you didn't know, okay? So, all right, I had paid for 5 days up front because I'm trying to get a job and this, that, and the other, and I was going to do this. Well, nonetheless, it was not working good because I'm trying to find jobs, and, the whole thing of it was, do you have New York experience? And I said, no, I don't, so they wouldn't hire me, and that became a problem. I was about to give up. I was like, Lord, I done made a mistake. Something, this ain't right. I'm not. And one of the things, God always give me a sign that I'm in the right place. And this was my first one. I was about to make a call home to my mother, and FX had just started its new channel. And at the time, they were on the corner of 25th and Madison Square. And I was at the payphone kitty corner. And all of a sudden, honey, I know my girl's spin, honey, and I know that glow. I look up, it was Wonder Woman on the TV. And I said, no. And baby, I would stand on the corner for an hour. Didn't have no sound, but I knew most of the episodes anyway, honey. I would stand there on the corner and I would watch Wonder Woman. So that that was my chutzpah to keep me there. And I was like, okay, we're just in a slump and carrying on. And so I got a job finally, watching this guy come through. He came through, I asked him, he had a blazer on, and from Detroit, blazer security officers, if you had a blazer, that was a good account and paid more money. So I said, your company hiring? He said, yes. He said, effective, they always hiring. So I went to the payphone, put on my good business voice. Hello, I'm Demetrius Taylor. I'm inquiring about employment opportunities with your organization. And, did all that. Went down there, and to cut to the chase of it, I went down there and I finally got employed through them, because every place else that I went, because I had my bags, it denoted that I was homeless. In Detroit, it didn't mean that. If you had a little satchel or whatever, you got your little plastic, from the grocery store, whatever, it didn't mean much of nothing everywhere else. In New York, that was a telltale sign that you were homeless. And I watched folks take my applications and throw them in the garbage and things because I had bags. And so this time, I went over, and it was early in the morning, and the places were getting delivery, so we had a lot of trucks and stuff on the street. And I saw those green military mailboxes, and I said, Lord, watch my stuff, because I don't want to take it up. So I took my bags and I stuffed them up under the mailbox because the trucks were out and nobody could see up under it. And I went in and, honey, did my thing, and I got my job. So that was on day number 10 of being in New York. And then after I got the job, the guy who was one of the guys of the homeless shelter, he was coming down the street. I'm sitting on the church stoop because I had nowhere to go. And I told his name was Sam. And I went to him and I told him, I said, Sam, look, I said, I just got a job and there's no way I can sleep in these chairs like this. I'm going to need a bed. I got to do something. He said, okay, look. He said, I want you to get here at 6 o'clock. I don't want you here at 6:01 and not 6:05. I need you here at 6 o'clock. I said, all right. I got there at 5:45. And I got there. He said, when you get there, come and see me. I said, all right. And I nodded at him. He said, all right. At 11 o'clock that night, I was only one of 2 names that was called because I had got in the system. And that's how I got upstairs to the 7th floor where the beds were. And luckily for me, I was in the bed with only one other person. Everybody else had 15, 16, 20 people in the room. It was me and one guy. And I have sleep apnea and I snore very loudly. And the guy told me, he said, man, I thought the first night that you was just real tired, but I see this is you. He said, but I done got to the point now to where I can't sleep if I don't hear you because I know you all right. That ain't nothing but God, because I've been teased all of my life about my snoring and carrying on. And that man there, I can't call his name right now. He was the one to teach me about homeless living.
My bout with homelessness was about 3 years ago. And my brokenness through depression. And I lost my health insurance. And I found myself sleeping in my office for about a year. My experience, especially someone who suffered from, I don't like, that's not a good word to say suffer, but was diagnosed with OCD.
at a very young age. So
All right, for those that don't know what that is. what is that?
okay, it's a compulsive disorder. So it literally you have a repetition of doing things, maybe washing your hands or making sure things are a certain way, and it has always affected my life. So coming out of just a beautiful life of working every day and just going through, just navigating through life, and then going through to a public restroom to clean up in the morning, brush your teeth, to use a public sink. It was very, very, very hard for me. It's probably one of the most difficult things I've ever had to face in my life, because it's that type of stigma that people don't realize when you start talking about mental illness. Like everyone has, even a person who's on the street for maybe I'll say less than 24 hours is going to change your mindset. And so even if you haven't been diagnosed with something, you're gonna have some type of influence, I think, of your mental state and how that looks and how you navigate through that process. And so for me, it was very difficult. And being diagnosed with bipolar was hard for me because my manic would have me doing repetition things. Maybe even in my small space where I would maybe fold up the few little things that I had, because I did lose everything. From when you're homeless, you're moving from place to place. And if you don't have someone that can hold on to your items, I lost a lot of things. So the few things that I had, then you become kind of territorial. And so even when I did get out of my homeless situation and I got an apartment, I slept on my floor for about maybe 4 to 5 months. And my caseworker would come over and we would talk about it. You know, she'd say, well, Erica, why are you still sleeping on the floor? Because your mindset is, this is my section. This is what I know to do. And it became familiar with me. And so I think a lot of times when we talk about homelessness and mental illness is that state that that person is in at that particular time. So where someone may say normal people have been exposed to different things in that sector, it can look different for different people.
I guess what I would want to leave people with is you never know what the next person's going through. You never know what their living arrangements are, what their money arrangements are. You don't know if somebody's eating or anything like that. So I just wanted to bring some awareness to what we're now coining transitional homelessness.